Okay, so we're talking about Strava today, and I'm a little late to the party. Plenty has already been written and recorded and said about the current state of affairs. Figure I'll add my take to the heaping pile because perspective is always important. So, we're going to talk about some of the history of Strava, the current state, and what I think will be the future of Strava going forward. And will I even be around for that future? Should you stick around for that future? Let's talk about it.
What it do?
So we can't get into the future of Strava without first uncovering some of its past. So around 2009, two Harvard students who road crew had an idea for a social network. No, not those Winklevoss guys. This is not that social network. We're talking about Michael Horwath? Sorry. And Mark Gainey. They had the idea for an athletic social platform. And sure, that other social network already existed and was thriving, but they wanted something specific for athletes. And thus, Strava was born. Works out great for me because I learned about Strava in 2010 as my love for cycling was really just in its infancy. So I was using my phone clipped onto the handlebars with Strava loaded as my map to give me turn by turn and also track the telemetry of how far and how fast it had gone. And that was all I used it for. There actually wasn't a whole lot else to use it for at the time, but as things evolved, they started adding some more functions and making it a lot more robust. One of the first things that really caught my eye is when Strava let you add an external sensor. So you could wear a chest strap to collect that heart rate data and truly make your phone a bike computer. And that was awesome. I used that function for a really, really long time. Now, over time, as I rode more, a standalone bike computer made a lot of sense. And if you're cycling too, I highly recommend having that standalone device so your phone doesn't get beaten up. I can't even tell you the number of times I hit a pothole, my phone goes flying, and I've cracked that screen. That's another story for another time. Somewhere in 2016, I caught the run bug, and by then, Strava had added other functions as well, like swimming and running and strength training, which worked out fantastically for me. So I'd go out for my run and it would sync back, all the data would upload to Strava, so I had my rides, my runs, I wasn't swimming at the time, my lifts, all of those would be logged in one place, which seemed great. Now, while there was a phone app, you gotta imagine in 2010, apps were not nearly as feature-packed and robust as they are today. So a lot of my Strava usage was on the desktop, which, funny enough, I feel many newer Strava users don't even know that there's a desktop version or the functions there. If you're keen for a laugh, go ahead and check out this video right here. It is the third video that I uploaded to this channel. It is very rough, but it will show you some of my background in Strava and how I personally like to use it, specifically the desktop version, to kind of recon courses that I was going to race on, whether that's running or cycling, and just kind of get the lay of the land before I get there. That function is still very much available and continues to be one of the reasons I use Strava today, but I digress. I'm running more and more and more and doing less and less cycling, if I'm honest, as I was building up for my very first marathon in 2017, but my wife was also pregnant at the time. So having those long runs, being away from home for 2-3 hours at a time, you can imagine it didn't make for a very good situation of, how long are you going to be out? When will you be back? And just in time, Strava Premium has this option that lets you share a beacon. The beacon is exactly what it sounds like. As long as you had your phone on you, you send out that beacon link, and it would use your phone as live tracking. So wherever I went, she could pull up that link on her phone and see exactly where I was, have a rough idea of how far from home I was, And we then later used that for all sorts of things, where I would be on a long bike ride, she would use the beacon and kind of meet me halfway, see exactly where I was going to be, and, would meet me with some snacks, couple words of encouragement, big squeeze, and I'm off and on my way. Super, super cool function. But with all the cool functions they were adding, I also noticed they started to pull some stuff back. Now, granted, that didn't start happening until about 2019, but some of the functions, like being able to link your external heart rate monitor, was gone, just out of the blue. Somewhere around 2020, there was another function where you could leverage your Strava data through this other app, Relive, that kind of did these really cool, relive the experience, your bike ride, your run, your hike, whatever, and showed you some graphics about like, hey, here's your highest point, here's the fastest that you went, and all that. They nuked that connection. So Relive wouldn't work anymore. There was this other app called Climate. It would give you the start temperature and the ending temperature of your activity, which was super useful for me because, if I'm being totally honest, one of my biggest personal usage for Strava was keeping track of how I dressed in different weather conditions. So if I saw, as the seasons was changing, that it's 30 degrees outside, I'm not sure how to layer, how am I gonna feel? Well, let me just look at the last time it was 30 degrees outside. What did I wear? Did it work out okay? Alright, cool. And that was my own kind of running log. Strava nixed that too. Instead, they added their own weather, which, if I'm being honest, wasn't as good, but I'm glad they added it. But removing that function, nixing the relive function, and a couple of other things that were disconnected kind of started to rub me the wrong way. If you want to hear more about the history of Strava, Michael and Mark, the co-founders of Strava, did a really deep dive, great interview on the Rich Roll podcast. I'll link that down below next to the like button. And you can check that out to get more of the background and see where they came from. So here we are now, and like I said, plenty of people have talked about specifically the price increases of Strava Premium, and is it even worth it anymore? And, I kind of wish they were more transparent about A, the price going up, and B, what they were doing with it. So having watched this platform mature and scale up and grow to a huge size, something like 1 billion activities have been uploaded by 2017, and even more coming in, right? Now that they're adding new activity types that you can do and all these other functions, I feel like this small team has really got more on their plate than they can handle. And they're going to have to scale up. They're going to have to hire. They're going to need to expand servers. Sometime in the last year, they added video clips. For a really long time, I used to think of Strava as the social network that you have to sweat to post. And slowly that has changed, where now you can just do flat out post, right? Kind of like a YouTube community post and say, hey, this is what's going on. No sweat involved. You can also now upload videos, albeit short videos, I think like 15 to 30 seconds or something like that. But videos are now part of Strava. And then they've linked with Zwift and other app partners that will take some of these virtual videos and add them in there for you. You've got segments that have been added. You've got local legends, and on and on. They've been adding these features, but the price had stayed the same. So, is it reasonable that after all this time they would increase their prices? Yeah, I get it. But without the transparency of telling your users, or having to rely on folks like DC Rainmaker kind of call out what's happening and where the prices are going, that feels a little shady, and it was honestly a little too late by the time they did make a response. But I get it. All these things have a cost. Now, personally, that first function I talked about, the beacons that let you share your location, well, in 2020, they realized that, hey, this is just a good core function to have, and they migrated that from a premium function to a regular everybody has this function. Along with that, Turns out other companies are doing it too. Garmin is letting you share your location. Wahoo lets you share your location. So what is still behind the paywall? You know, they have these Strava Premium features and functions and things like that. And, you know, most of it seems, if I'm being honest, kind of gimmicky. I no longer use any of the challenges. I am so not concerned with the local legends. I guess segments are cool, but I'm not winning anybody's KOM, and the free version can still let you compete against your own time, which, great function by the way, if you're looking to get better. You can kind of race yourself and track your progress, right? Beat your previous time. So that's still there. All the other stuff just doesn't seem really appealing to me, with the exception of the route builder, which I have used a ton. I make so many routes on Strava. However, I also make routes on Ride with GPS. I also use Komoot, and I'm sure there is a laundry list of other apps that will let you create cycling routes, running routes, that will convert them to a GPX file that you can load to your watch or your computer or whatever, share with your friends. There are other alternatives for that. So at, what are they now, $100 a year? Is Strava still worth it? Honestly, it hasn't been worth that much for me in a really long time. I feel like as a legacy user, it was just, yeah, sure, we'll keep it going, but I had the thought of, do I still need Strava Premium if the beacon function is now included in the free? The answer was no, but I didn't mind at the, I want to say $70 a year I used to pay. But for $100 a year? I don't know. So that's where I'm at. Where are you? Do you use Strava? Do you enjoy the features? Have you been a premium member? Are you considering switching from premium to free? Or are the security concerns of location sharing, you know, too much for you and you've stayed away from Strava as a whole? Strava has exposed confidential military base locations. There's also been some stuff about, hey, if you're running at the same time doing the same route, you know, an attacker could potentially use Strava to reverse engineer and find out where you live. And yes, Strava has addressed that with some privacy functions that you can use. But is that enough? Let me know where you stand. That's it for this one. Till next time, it's been real.